Hey, what's up, everyone? Now, I've heard a lot of people, with certain wrestling roundtables and shows that they have here on the YT and other video sites, as well as like a MySpace and a Facebook and things like that. One of the things I've heard people talk about and discuss is the change that wrestling has gone through over the past decade or so, or 20 years. Now, we all remember back in the 1980s that it was mostly NWA, WWE, or as we call it, NWA, WCW, NWA, and of course you had the AWA and you had the USWA, you had all those other ones. But the two major ones, besides AWA and USWA and WCCW, like I said, the other ones like UWF, the major ones that people were always going after were the NWA, WCW, and the WWE. Now these belts represent the time periods of the 80s and the 90s. This was the first belt that was used mostly during the 80s by WCW and NWA, and this was brought in about the mid to late 80s for the WWE. And this is the most recognizable championship they had. This title was used from, I believe, 1988, I believe, to 1998. So for 10 years, this championship was used. 10 years it was used. Now, a lot of people say that the title you see nowadays, the broken up hardcore title, is this very title. And it just might be, but I don't think so. I don't think so, but it just might be. Now these titles, like I said, represent those eras. Now, but throughout the years, times have changed, or times changed. Now, when WCW sort of started to break away from the NWA, this belt was tossed in favor of this belt. Now this belt was used for a while, and as we all know, when Ric Flair went to WWE, he took this belt with him. And then he, basically gave it back when a settlement was settled, if you will. And this belt became the international title, and now is back to being the world title. Then went back to being WCW's title, then the world title as it is in WWE today. And from that moment, these two represented the companies of WCW, WWE. But again, as times changed, this title ended up getting the NWO mark on it. Now I could dig that out right now if I wanted to, but I don't want to. Started to get the NWO mark, and that was the start of an attitude era in wrestling. And because of that, WWE saw an opportunity and tossed the old traditional belt away for a smoking skull belt, for a more rounded belt, for a smaller belt, and eventually for this belt. Basically, these championships that I'm showing you represent the change in attitude over the years, the change in atmosphere, in era of wrestling. This represents the more current era of wrestling, while those other ones represented the past. Now this title, however, is still being used in World Wrestling Entertainment as the world title on either SmackDown or Raw, ECW, or wherever. Well, this title is the same way, either used on Raw or SmackDown or wherever as its title. So these are the main two major championships that are representing the current stage of WWE's era as we speak. Now this title, however, the NWA World Heavyweight Championship, was brought back in 2002 in TNA. Now you might say, well, wait a minute, wasn't it brought back before that? Yes, it was brought back before that in 1993, 1994 in ECW. But as we all know, Shane Douglas, when he won the tournament to become the champion, instead of saying, hey, I'm happy to be the NWA World Heavyweight Champion, and I thank all those that came before me, instead he throws it down like this in exchange of the ECW title, which began the ECW Revolution. But TNA saw an opportunity. They saw an opportunity and brought it back. The Jarrett saw an opportunity, brought it back, and for about, I think it was 5 years, this was represented as the TNA Championship. But, just like with ECW and WCW, TNA and NWA broke ways, parted ways. And TNA has a new championship similar to the original Undisputed title by WWE. And NWA now has their own championship somewhere. We don't know where it's at. I mean, and now the NWA has their own champion after they held a tournament. I don't know who the champion is right now. And NWA also has, I think, an agreement with Ring of Honor. I'm not sure. So this title is still around, even though it's not as featured as much as it used to be when it was part of TNA and WCW. So in other words, what I'm saying is that over the years, whether it be the Monday Night Wars, the Thursday Night Wars, whether it be revolutionizing wrestling with the extreme style, or showing, non-stop action, championship belts, like the promotions themselves, changed along with the times. And that is why nowadays you see these titles like this, the World title and the TNA title represented the way they are, including the ECW title. And that's all I have to say about why these championships, whether you know it or not, represent the change in attitude and era of wrestling today. And that's just my opinion on it, my thought on it. And I'm Brian saying, God bless, take care.